Chris Lahamadou. I'm an Office 365 technical specialist at Microsoft. I want to walk you through how easy it is to be able to quickly connect and engage with lots of different people in the organization using Microsoft Teams. In Teams, in my calendar view here, as I'm in my demo environment, there's two basic ways that you can build out an experience to engage with people. There's the familiar meeting experience that we have right now, where I want to have more a collaborative, engaging experience for up to 250 people within my organization or outside of my organization, depending on how I'm configured. And it's a great and simple, easy way to be able to build out a new meeting. However, sometimes I might need to have a broader reach for my communication, if you will. I want to be able to have more of a few to many presentation of content, so I can choose to reach a broader audience of up to 10,000, let's say, people. I can also do that very simply and easily within Teams. I can simply use the drop down, and instead of scheduling a meeting, I want to build out a live event. And when I build out a live event, I'm asked for just a couple of pieces of information to get up and running. I need to give this live event a title, and I could say that this is my demo live event. Oops. And I could pick a location if there was a meeting space or conference room, but oftentimes these are virtual these days. And I want to go ahead and pick a time for my live event, right? Maybe we'll make this up to an hour. They are allowed to be a maximum of 4 hours. I could give some additional information about the live event if I wanted to. And then what's great about live events, different from meetings in Teams, is you have some very prescriptive roles that you can create. By default, the organizer of the event, which is me, is the producer. These are the persons that are in control of when the meeting event goes live. They have access to the moderated Q&A if you configure it. They determine what sources are available through the broadcast at any given time, right? So producer, sort of a very powerful role, and I can have multiples of those if I want, depending on what I'm broadcasting. I can also invite others in my organization to engage in this as well too, and they can be anywhere in the world, just simply leveraging the Teams client. So whether they're across the room or across the state or across the other side of the country, it doesn't matter. Teams helps facilitate a seamless delivery experience for producers, as well as those who are in the role of presenter. People that can choose to share their camera or their desktop or an application and be one of the possible choices to be brought live into the live event streaming feed. In this case, just to show the point, I'll go ahead and make my demo buddy Garth here a presenter. So once I've picked the roles of people who are going to be engaging in the event on sort of the presentation level, if you will, I simply click Next. And here I'm presented with a couple of choices. Where do I want people to be able to consume this live event? Is this really only meant for a certain set of groups or people within my organization? Maybe only this particular region, this particular grade, whatever that is. And I can be granular about that. Or to make it sort of more friction-free, I could say, well, hey, this is great for anybody within my org as long as they sign in and provide valid credentials, right? So an easy way to light up a large town hall event for everybody in your org for up to 10,000 endpoints, if you will. There's also an option to make a live event public or open to anyone, right? So, and you would use this when people are mostly outside of your organization, right? I'm going to go ahead and pick org-wide because I think that's what resonates for a lot of the customers that I talk with. And then you have some choice about where you're going to produce your live event, right? And we give you two choices here, so allow you to have some flexibility, right? On the one hand, on the easy end of things, is just using the Teams client to be able to do my broadcast, right? Teams is a familiar experience for a lot of people. I understand what it means to turn my camera on and off or come on or off mute, to share a presentation or a desktop, if you will. Just a really easy, familiar experience. And then there's a number of things that we can light up under Teams, right? Making the recording available to producers and presenters, or maybe optionally making it available to the attendees, right? So I have some choice about how I want to do that. And then we have in preview right now the ability to do live captioning, right? So leveraging the fact that my spoken language is English, maybe I want to give the attendees of my meeting the ability to pick another language that might more specifically resonate for them, right? So maybe I want to include French, and up to 6 different ones in Italian. Everybody always loves Klingon. Maybe we'll do Spanish as well too, and maybe Chinese, if you will, just the traditional Chinese or what have you. So allowing, again, there to be this bridge from a communication standpoint for the person who's speaking, and then giving the people a live caption and preview that would show up in the underlying closed caption option. We can capture an attendee engagement report, right? So how well are people plugged into this? And then lastly, one of the things that I think is really great is moderated Q&A. So if you want, even though this is a stream, it's a broadcast, it's unlike a meeting where everybody can kind of come off mute and access, this is something that people are consuming. But if you want to give them that feedback loop to be able to engage, you can set up moderated Q&A where you can have a panel on the right side to specify announcements, making it very easy for you to get the feedback from your audience. They can ask questions, you can respond and publish answers, and it's another one of those things that people are in the producer or presenter role may be doing in addition to just presenting content. So as you're building out that list of people, it's another thing you might want to staff folks for when you're building one of these out. So a lot of great experiences leveraging Teams as that encoder for, again, that really simple scenario of anything that's on my desktop, any camera that the Teams client can see that's plugged into my PC, or any mic that's plugged in there. Really easy, simple experience. And I would manage that just like I do with a regular Teams meeting. We also give customers the ability to leverage an external encoder, some other kind of an application or device. And there's lots of choice here in this space. We have a number of certified software platforms like OBS and others. And this is for more of a sort of a formal town hall thing where I've got a stage and an audience with lots of mics and maybe multiple cameras, and I want to do picture-in-picture with different scenes and maybe a lower third with people's names on them. All that would be handled in those more sophisticated packages. But just in terms of getting up and running, for a lot of people, Teams is a great way to start and where we're gonna focus ours. So let's go ahead and schedule this event. And what it will do is it will drop it onto my calendar. And the key thing here is what we do for you is we create an attendee link, right? So I would take this link and I would pivot over to my email, my Outlook on the web experience or Outlook experience. I would fire that up, and then I would paste that attendee link in a meeting invite, let's say, or on a web page portal, in a calendar event, if you will, sort of wherever you want your people to be able to see the consumption side of this. If you will. We don't add people in the company to this event by default. You present that link in whatever way that makes the most sense to you. And then I have the ability again to see the live event resources that are going to be available after the event. I'll see what the meeting information looks like. If I ever want to edit or change the event configuration, to add some additional presenters in advance of doing the meeting, I can do that very simply and easily. So let me show you what it looks like to actually produce this event, right? If I come in here and I jump into the meeting event, right? As one of the producers or presenters, I'm going to go ahead and join this meeting and see what that looks like here. And I'm going to grab this attendee link. When I go ahead and join, you'll see that we're making use of camera, right? And wherever that is, and I can pick and choose what I want that to be. Do I want that to be this particular camera or a different microphone, if you will? I've got some choice about what I want that to look like. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and make this camera the one I want. Right? So I've got multiple cameras attached to this device. I can sort of manage that as I want. I can make my microphone live or not. And we've not started the broadcast yet, so that doesn't really matter, but I'll go ahead and liven that up. And then I can go ahead and join the meeting, and I can connect into the meeting as a producer, you'll see. And I'm using the full Teams client to do this, which you'll need to do. And once I tie into the service, you'll see I have a slightly different mechanism for sharing and managing the meeting, if you will. So at a quick level, let's do a little tour here. The meeting, we're in sort of this pre-live stage right now. I've connected in a few minutes beforehand. I'm not really sure that I've got everybody engaged yet. I'm going to give my other presenters or producers time to connect in. I can see all the different knobs and dials that are available to me ahead of this, including showing that Q&A panel. So if I wanted to make an announcement to say, welcome to our broadcast. Ask questions here. Attendees could go ahead and ask questions in this moderated Q&A panel. I can put in a broadcast. Others can post questions, respond, if you will, and I can make that live. If there are new questions that are coming in, I will see them here as that broadcast happens. We can also have sort of a side chat amongst the participants in the meeting. So the organizer and the producer or the presenter or whatever, we can have a side chat, if you will, all right here within the panel. I can see some health and performance information. So I know sort of real time how things are looking, what my send quality is like, my media bitrate qualities that have been specified by administrators. All that I can see right here at the ready. Now over in this pane here is where I can manage both the view of the content as well as what is live at any given time, right? So if you've done a live Teams event, you're familiar with that sort of sharing tray, the little square icon with the upward facing arrow. Here we've got a share. This is how I access the share tray, where I can choose to share maybe one of the two screens that's connected to my device, or maybe I want to share a specific window, or I want to upload a specific presentation, right? In this case, I'm going to go ahead and share the other screen on my desktop, if you will. And so while in presentation mode here, I can say that I have this particular content, my desktop, and I'm going to queue this up as the content to be live, if you will, right? So we're still not broadcasting yet. We're still not live. But in this way, it makes it very easy. If I have a bunch of other presenters tied into here and they're sharing content, I can pick and choose what from here is live, and then at any point, send content live, if you will. I also have the ability to change what I might want to have as the presentation, right? So maybe I want to have the video or the PowerPoint in one, or desktop in one, and I want to have a video in the other, if you will. So I have got some choice about what that looks like, and I can change that before, during, or whatever the event. Once I'm ready to go and I've got my content sources defined and I'm good there, and I know people are coming off mic, if you will, as attendees were climbing into this environment, if you will, they were seeing a certain experience, right? When they go to join the broadcast, if you will, as someone who is remote, I'm going to go ahead and watch this on the web here to join it, and you'll see what that looks like actually in the background. You'll see the experience of joining into this particular meeting as a remote attendee, right? We fire up the Teams client in the browser, and I can see what this meeting experience will look like, right? I'm actually coming in as Garth, a fellow producer, if you will. And so once I decide we're ready to go live, I've sent this particular piece of content live, if you will. Now we can go ahead and be ready to, I can send this into the live window, right? And then I can choose to start the broadcast, right? Starting a broadcast in the Teams live event is a one-time thing. So once I start, there's no stopping. If I want to pause or whatever, I will put up a black screen and mute or whatever to make whatever course corrections on content that I need. But starting a broadcast is a one-way trip. And the reason why that is because as I'm broadcasting, we're sending all of this out to Azure Media Services. And what's great about that is it allows us to repackage and redeliver this live event over adaptive bit streaming. So I can get the right amount of bandwidth that I'm consuming based on what's available to me. So if I have a great internet connection at home and I'm not competing with the kids watching Netflix during the day, then I can pull the full 720p stream at 3 megabits per second. But if I'm, on the mobile device and I'm kind of more in consumption or listen mode, then I can, if I'm in a bandwidth constricted area, I'll have a smaller bandwidth set to draw from, right? We also allow for DVR capability, right? So again, imagine you're broadcasting one of these out for an hour. Your attendees are wherever they are in the world watching this content. And maybe they're at home and all of a sudden the doorbell rings and the dog starts barking because there's somebody at the door to deliver something or pick something up. The DVR capability of a live event allows me to pause that in stream and then allows me to then walk away, go do what I need to do, and then come back to that experience and pick right back up where I left off. Or if I've started the broadcast at 3 o'clock, let's say my time, and somebody's just joining now at 3:10, they can actually wind the slider back and start from the beginning. And so that start process and subsequent delivery is what makes that possible. One other thing to note is, much like watching live television, there is a little bit of a delay between when I am speaking now versus when my audience is hearing me speak or see in the broadcast, if you will. And that is to allow for that transcoding as well as that DVR capability. So just keep that in mind. It tends to be around 20 seconds or so, something like that, depending on the day. So anyway, so we are actually still not yet live, right? But once I do go ahead and go live, I get a prompt. It lets me know about the attendees and the 10 to 20 second delay, so that's good. It also lets me know that I can have events for up to 4 hours, so that's great if I need to have something long running, if you will. And once I start this live broadcast, right, myself and all of the other attendees will see, or presenters, not attendees, but the presenters and the other participants will see that we've gone live, right? So it's a great way for people to know sort of what's happening in the broadcast, if you will. Again, let me show what the attendee link looks like on the other side for somebody who's not signed in. We're going to go ahead and watch this broadcast on the web. If they had the Teams client, they could join from within there, which is fine. And on the someone who's coming in who's not signed into the environment, if you will, you can see what their experience looks like. As soon as this hops in here, apologies for a little bit of a delay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and sign in. Oh, I need to sign in because I'm within the org, and that's fine. Miriam G at so I can go ahead and sign in since I am not a producer or presenter, but I still need to sign in, right? So we're still respecting that security boundary, which is great, knowing that their access to your broadcast is secured by your organization's Azure Active Directory credentials. Because when I built the meeting, I did specify that it was a meeting for within my org. So now the Teams client will finish firing here. I'm going to go ahead and turn that down. And it's going to go ahead and attach me into the broadcast. I got a lot going on this machine, so apologies there for that. But I see the subject line here, my demo live event. Here's that Q&A panel that I would see as an attendee, right? And now that live stream is firing up in the window here, right? So all of these things that I need to do to jump into and join the meeting, they're all right here, right? I see that I'm live. I can see those closed captions, the subtitling, if you will. If that were to happen, my microphone is muted, so we're not really seeing much of anything there. But here's that DVR capability. So if I wanted to pause and I wanted to pull back from a time perspective and go back in time a little bit to earlier in the broadcast, I can certainly do that, right? I don't have to necessarily wait to see what's happening. Here I can go ahead into the Q&A panel and I can ask a question of the moderator. And I have some choices. How did you do this, right? And I could choose to make this an authenticated comment or question, or I could post it anonymously if I don't necessarily want people to know who made the ask, if you will. I'm going to go ahead and post as anonymous so you can see. And then on the back end here, the producer, presenters, if you will, that have access, you see they get a little prompt letting me know that there's something new from a Q&A perspective, if you will. I can see that there's a reply here, and I can reply to them and make that, well, actually, let's be clear. This is Teams magic. So I can go ahead and respond to that question, and they can see that anonymously or privately or whatever. Or I could, publish a comment and make it a little bit more, public, if you will. I can see as people join in to the live events here, how many attendees are in here. I actually delivered a broadcast earlier for a customer, and we had 350 or so, which was great to see that level of engagement. And again, as I want to make changes here, if I want to make some other content live, if you will, see they're currently still seeing my shared desktop, but if I now all of a sudden want to pivot and make this source the live source during the broadcast, I click send live, and now we will pivot and transition so that content is the live content. And if I go through and look at that event as someone who's signed in a browser, let me go ahead and clobber some of these ones that are really busy. then I can see that we have that content that's been transitioned accordingly. So again, a great way to be able to plug in. If I come back up here, you'll see in another few seconds, if you will, the video will transition. There's that me changing that to the Q&A, and you'll quickly see that I will soon change over from the showing of the broadcast, if you are showing on my desktop, and the presentation, if you will, to showing my camera. And again, this is the attendee view, the person that's consuming that content, if you will. Let that trigger for just a second. So as you can see, right, I mean, if you think about, we've been at this for, 15 minutes or so, and very quickly was I able to spin up and deliver a really rich, empowered media service to broadcast out desktop, video, voice, screen sharing, presentations, if you will, and not necessarily having to go through a lot of trouble to do that. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and end this broadcast. And again, that's a one-way thing. Once I'm done, that broadcast will be published out to, recorded out to wherever I want it to be. If I've made it available to the attendees, then I can go ahead and share that with them, or they would be able to consume that where they are. If I'm choosing not to make that available to the attendees through the broadcast mechanism, I can then choose to make that available in another way, right? So I can download the video and then publish it to stream, or publish it to a portal with a link, or however I want to deliver that content to my attendees. So that's kind of it, right? I mean, really straightforward, allowing me to sort of deliver an event very simply and easily, sort of end to end, without too much trouble. And again, really an empowering experience. So hopefully that was helpful. Thanks so much for joining. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to your local Microsoft account team, and they will get you squared away. Thanks so much.